For today's session. So I will be guiding us through our programme and facilitating some questions. I'm a ceramic artist, and I combine that work with my work as a business advisor and a project manager. And I've been very lucky to be just a little bit involved in the Altermatter 1 project. Very lucky to hear the dissemination event at the end of the project and become familiar with the really inspiring projects that happened as a result of Altermatter 1. So this is a project very dear to my own heart. I do a lot of material research in my own practice and try to adopt circular approaches to practice. So I'm delighted that we can be welcoming you to potentially participate in Altermatter 2. So before we get sort of into the meat of today, I want to just share my screen and talk you through some of the practicalities, starting with, if everybody can see my screen okay, if somebody can, yeah, we're good. Fantastic. So what I wanted to do was just start with a few house rules just for the smooth running of today. So if I could ask you just to kindly keep your mic muted throughout the session, because it really does play havoc sometimes with feedback. So that would be great. We are recording the session, which I think you may have realized already with the announcement. So you are, by joining us, you are agreeing to be part of that. But if you feel very strongly you don't want to appear on screen, do please feel you can turn your camera off. As a practical aspect, we will be having question and answers later, once we've heard from our speakers. So please do pop your questions into the chat so that I can gather them up and ask our speakers and the project organisers on your behalf. If you could also just say who you are and where you're from, that would be really useful as well. We do have a simultaneous interpretation option. So if you are wanting to listen to today's webinar in a different language, please click the globe button and you can choose the language that you want to listen in. And I suppose just a warning that obviously we're online, and as much as we hope we won't have any technical glitches, we apologise in advance if there are, and we hope it will all be smooth. So with the house rules in place, let me see if I can move my screen on, and I'm not able to for some reason. I'm not sure what's going on. Oh, there we are. Right. So I wanted really just to give you all a very brief introduction to Altermatter, and to talk a little bit about the reasons why it came about, because there really is an urgent and increasing need for all of us globally to address climate change and to really look at our patterns of consumption. And one of the important things for this project is really looking at the role of craft in exploring new ways of working, new models of practice, and ways in which we can work globally and collaboratively to address some of these issues. And so Altermatter brought together pairings of UK and Indonesian designers, makers, and material experimenters to explore new types of material together. That was done in a sort of 4-stage process that we'll talk a little bit more about. And the whole programme was sort of run both online and offline, including an exhibition and dissemination event at the end. And I suppose the big question is really why alternative materials? We really have huge opportunities as we design and make products to think about materials in new ways. Indonesia has some, difficulties in terms of the production, the sheer scale of production of waste material. So it's an urgent need from an Indonesian perspective, but also globally, because obviously the waste, the non-biodegradable waste that is just building and building is a global problem that we all need to think about. So there is this pressing and urgent need for practitioners to really think about things differently, to think about the way they tell stories, to think about the way they can actually lead in good and sustainable practice, and to think about ways of encouraging each other and the wider population out there to think about the way we consume and adopt more circular approaches to the way that we work. And through the Altermatter project, it was an opportunity to bring different disciplines together, to put different knowledge into the conversation and to look for new solutions together. For some reason, I'm still not managing to move my slides on very effectively. Oh, there we go. We'll just do it that way. So just to briefly mention the organisers, again, it was a collaborative project with led by the British Council, and then bringing in partners Cast Foundation, an Indonesian-based organisation, really looking at innovative solutions in this intersection between disciplines. Pleo, a social design studio, really sort of encouraging collaboration and looking at new ways of looking at resources. And Applied Art Scotland, which is a member-led organisation based in Scotland, really looking at exchange, knowledge exchange and skill exchange in ways of developing craft and creative practice. And there were different elements to the programme, and we will sort of explore those a little bit more through our speakers and through our conversation later on. But it was really thinking about ways to facilitate conversation between stakeholders and thinking about the way that the material development within the project could really sort of lead to new products, new ways of working. And the outcome of the project was really to end up with some new models, some prototypes. And it was really impressive, I have to say, at the dissemination event to discover just how much had been done in a very short space of time. So when you're determined and inspired, anything is possible. We're not going to go into detail because we just want to get started with hearing from our speakers today. But if you want to look at any more detail from the previous participants, if you have a look at the Altermatter website, on the Cast Foundation website, you'll get much more of the detail. But I suppose just to give you a brief summary, a tantalizing summary of what came out of last year's projects. We had one particular textile-based collaboration using natural fibres, Wave, and they created really stunning interior design screens, real statement pieces. We had the Dimple, and we'll be hearing from Fred Bryan as one of our speakers today, so he can tell you much more about the beautiful tiles that they created using really toxic waste materials from cigarette butts, which is a really inspiring story. We had Soft Edges, beautiful furniture created with soft bumpers created from mycelium. We had Sisal, new materials made from seashell waste. And Bonding Bamboo, creating beautiful everyday objects from hazardous bamboo production waste, dust and strands. So really exciting and inspiring stories, and you can find out more about those by going on to the website. So let's talk a little bit about Altermatter 2. The application deadline is April 16th, and the application process is very straightforward. We can answer some specific questions around that as we go on. And I think just briefly to talk about the sort of participant requirements, really we're looking for people who have 2 to 3 years minimum of professional working experience in this sort of broad range of craft, design, making and material development. We want to encourage people to apply who are already a little bit familiar with material development. We want them to be able to sort of get up and running quite quickly. It's a short time frame, so it's important that you have some sort of familiarity with that already. And you need to be based, or certainly during the programme while it runs, you need to be based in either Indonesia or Scotland. You've got to want to work collaboratively with inspiring partners in another country, and be ready and willing and excited about the prospect of testing new materials. You'll need to be comfortable working online, because obviously so much of the work will need to be done online, using Zoom, using WhatsApp. So really sort of hoping that those are really easy tools for you to work with. And we need you to be committed to working together on the residency and undertaking the prototyping. And the language that will be used is English. So it's really important that you feel comfortable with English as a way to communicate. And really, I suppose, for me, just to really talk a little bit about the benefits of participation, because I think the potential of new alternative materials is so important. As we've talked about, we've got an urgent and pressing need to address climate change and pollution and the problems that we've created for ourselves. And we want to use this project to really showcase and raise the questions that craft can answer in terms of experimentation and innovation. We want to be able to help and facilitate that collaborative process, and we want to really strengthen the amazing relationships that are already in place between Indonesia and the UK. And we want to really raise this subject for deeper discussion. And also, it's useful to know that there is a fee for participants. It doesn't cover every moment that you would be on the project, because I think there's so much more to be gained from the project, but important to recognise the time commitment and the fee for that. So, just giving you quickly a timeline, and we can talk a little bit more about this if people have questions. But I think as we're recording this, and I'm sure the slides will be made available so that you can refer back to the detail of this information, not have to absorb it all immediately. And the application can be accessed online. So that's the whistle-stop tour, really, from my perspective. I'm going to stop sharing, because our structure for today is really that I'm going to introduce now our British Council colleague Kenny to do a bit of a backdrop to the project and how it got started. Then we'll be hearing from 3 inspirational speakers to talk about their experience of material research and development. And as I say, Brian is actually one of the previous participants, so can talk a little bit about that too. And then we'll have a question and answer session. So please do put those questions into the chat as we go. But I'm now going to hand over to Kenny to just say a little bit more about how it all came to be.
Thank you, Carol. Thank you so much for the wonderful whistle-stop tour of Altermatter program. I'm really excited to welcome the second round of Altermatter this year. So as Carol had mentioned before, my name is Camelia Harahap, but you can call me Kemi. I am the head of arts and creative industries at British Council in Indonesia. Very happy to be here with you all today. But first and foremost, I'd also like to wish to those of you who are observing the holy month of Ramadan, wishing you a blessed Ramadan month, and may this month bring you prosperity and joy. Once again, it's great to see you all at the Altermatter Volume 2 webinar today. This event is the first in a series of Altermatter Volume 2 programs, which are the result of a partnership between British Council, CAS Foundation, Playo, and Applied Arts Scotland. It's an honor for me to be able to open the webinar today on behalf of British Council. As you might know, the British Council is the UK's international organization for cultural relations and educational opportunities. We build connections, understanding, and trust between people in the UK and other countries through arts and culture, education, and the English language. In our arts and culture programs, our programs focus to develop and build new connections, relationship, and networks between UK and Indonesian artists and arts organizations. We do this in various ways, one of which is through, for instance, grant programs such as Connections to Culture or international collaboration grants. This kind of grant program is intended to support collaboration between UK artists and organizations with Indonesian artists and organizations or with other countries. We've held the CTC grant since 2019, and in the last round of November 2022, we provided grants for a total of 11 new UK and Indonesia collaboration projects. But in addition to grants, we also collaborate with various stakeholders to develop a more inclusive and sustainable creative economy sector. Indonesia itself has a lot of potential and ambition to become a global leader in creative economy, especially in the Southeast Asia region. Last year, some of you might know, Indonesia hosted the G20 global event. And this year, Indonesia has become the chairman of ASEAN. This is a huge momentum for Indonesia, and the UK is also ready to support these ambitions in our capacity as one of ASEAN's newest dialogue partners. But of course, in addition to these two programs, we focus a lot on developing craft sector through our global program called the Arts Respond to Global Challenges. Through this program, we see how arts has a transformative role in responding to global issues such as climate change, diversity and inclusion, as well as cultural heritage. In Indonesia, we carry a lot of the themes around sustainability, circular economy, and biomaterials, because these are the areas that have been spotlighted due to the effects of climate change and environmental issues. So issues of climate change and environment are, of course, very important to all of us. In 2021, the UK had the opportunity to host the largest conference on climate, named COP26 in Glasgow. Even though the results of COP26 and later on COP27 in Egypt are still in process, we are aware that to make viable change, we actually need support from all sectors, including us from the arts and creative industry sector. Moreover, we believe that the arts and creative industry sector actually has a really unique way of being able to raise these issues to the general public. And in particular, the design and craft sector can contribute to finding new solutions and innovations. So we see that international cooperation through cultural relations is the key to finding common development solutions. By encouraging cross-sectoral, intergenerational, and international collaborations and bringing new voices across the sectors, we seek more innovative, creative, and sustainable solutions to the climate crisis that we all face. This is what led us to work with Applied Arts Scotland, CAS Foundation, and Playo for the Altermatter program. We also believe that the dialogue between Indonesia and the UK, both of which are countries that have a very important role in climate change, must provide an appropriate platform and strengthen their cooperation. Indonesia, with its rich natural resource, also has an approach to sustainability that is unique to our history and cultural heritage, whereas UK is known for its strength in research and development and technology. We believe that sharing this knowledge can not only benefit both parties, but can also contribute to the global conversation about alternative materials and environmental sustainability. The Altermatter program has been running since early 2022, and this year we are opening an open call for designers and makers in Indonesia and Scotland to join this year's cohort. As Carol had mentioned, selected participants will then be paired up to collaborate in exploring new materials, taking part in online workshops, and receiving mentorship from Indonesian and Scottish mentors. At the end of the online program, participants will present prototypes of their innovations, as well as having the opportunity to do face-to-face residencies. The deadline for applying this program is in April on the 16th, And if you have any questions about the program or the application process itself, we're ready to answer your questions during the Q&A session later on in this webinar. So once again, thank you very much for your time and attention. We're really excited to hear the sharing from our speakers today. And thank you, Carol, for the time, and I'll hand the screen back to you.
Lovely, thank you, Kemi. That was great sort of overview and felt very motivating. It's an exciting project to be involved in. So let's hope we get lots of applications. But without further ado, I think we're going to move on to our speakers, who are going to be really inspiring in terms of the work that they do with material research. So first of all, I'm going to welcome Adhi to share his story with us. Adhi is a lecturer, a researcher, and runs his own design studio. Uses some unexpected materials, I would say, perhaps, but I'm going to say no more than that, because I think, Adhi, you can tell the story better than me. So over to you.
Okay, thank you, Carol. Yeah, hi everybody. Selamat malam. Good evening. So now I'm share the screen first. Okay, this show now?
Yep, we're good.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, this yeah, first I think I should thank to British Council and Altermatter for inviting me to share my story about working and playing with countdown. Yeah, this is the material that I now work a lot, yeah, with. So these countdown projects I'm going to share are based on ongoing multidiscipline research project in Bandung Institute of Technology, ITB, that explores the use of cow dung as an agricultural waste to be developed into functional products. Lembang district of West Bandung, as a location of this project, is famous because of its agriculture products, especially milk. The region is a host of hundreds of small-scale milk producers. This has been increasing environmental problem in this region, as most of the farmers litter the waste, the cow dung, in unwise manner. I thought, yeah, this cow dung waste has been polluting landfill and water, thus creating bad smell in the village. Because I live in these areas, so the most inspiration of this doing this cow dung collection is based on my very deep concern and frustration, in fact, regarding how to reduce this agricultural, especially cow dung waste that mostly going easily to the landfill and river by processing it into a raw material for making different products. To be honest, I would say that my main motivation was purely environmental issues. That is, how to solve agricultural waste problem in my area where I live. So connecting to that issues, I think there are also some other issues we face today. Sustainable innovation strategy tend to focus on technocentric approaches without embracing the social cultural aspects of communities and individuals. My aim is how to create products by utilizing the waste materials, the cow dung, while at the same time applying a community-based design approach, which combination of ethnography research and participatory methods. So our research that started in 2021 focused on how to process the cow dung to suit all criteria and property to be used as a durable material for making a product. To date, the research team that consists of designers, mechanical engineering, and material scientists has resulted the efficient and practical ways to do that. In principle, the whole process consists of cleaning, filtering, drying, molding, finishing, and assembling. In brief, it can be described as following. So the dung is cleaned first with water that can be removed the dirt and the smell. After getting clean, it is dried and then mixed with specific additive. By this stage, we have already a ready mixture raw material for making a certain shape and an object. Shaping process is done by casting the flattened cow dung on the mold surface, layer by layer, until it really gets the right shape and being dried until hard. The mold can be dried using a dehydrator for about 10 hours, or let it dry naturally in room temperature for about 1 week. After it's completely dry, we can remove it from the mold and go to the finishing process, such as sanding and coating. Assembling parts and components is the final steps of this process. So the first idea of this project, in fact, to make how we can make just simple product that can be distributed and marketed locally, such as a brick, flower pot, or water container. Lembang is the area or the place of hundreds of greenhouses that grow different flowers and cactus, which is then for sure they need a lot of flower pot and water container. So we have thought also about making brick products to support local construction demands. But sadly, later on, our study has found out that we cannot make a good money or good economy with this stuff. Nobody buy, for example, one single brick for 5,000 rupiah. So nobody will buy it. Or maybe nobody will buy flower pot with 100,000 rupiah. So people get used to use a plastic pot instead of other materials. So they can get with this plastic material very cheap price, and they can get a lot of flower pots. So our idea is to making this first experiment, like making a flower pot or water container, has a lot of challenge by the fact that it doesn't meet the economical aspect of this project. So then we try to change our direction, and we decided that why don't we make some like product belong to lifestyle, like or home decor, like speakers or even table lamp, or even just furniture objects. So with this object, if we make these lifestyle products, so we can sell one product, for example, we can get even 1 million rupiah for one each of product. Like we have tried to produce speakers that we can sell in the market for price about 2 million rupiah. So this is the process that how we change our direction from first making something that can be circulated in the village, but then we shift to make a product belong to lifestyle product that can be even marketed widely overseas. So this is just one example that our development to make a table lamp that has been exhibited in Singapore and in Jakarta, later on in Bali. So that received a lot of attention and even orders to market it overseas. So this is also another example that how we develop the products that not only make like a water container, but maybe it is better that if this belong to home decor objects that can be value, that can has better economical value than only just a water container. And this is also another example that the product that we develop for lifestyle products. So we develop, for example, 3 different kind of speakers, and it can cost in the market is about 2 million rupiah, and it going well. Yeah, if you compare, we use the same exactly material, this speaker, this exactly the same amount of material if we make a brick or these speakers. The only difference is, of course, speaker we should have some electronical component to put inside. Yeah, but it doesn't cost so much also for that. And another one is we can develop also some furniture product like stool, bar stool, that we can combine this cow dung product with, for example, with rattan. So this is, for example, some pictures that we have exhibit some of our collection, new collection. That's all objects made of cow dung in Jakarta last year. So to sum up, by now, this cow dung products has been gone to some step of experimentation and laboratory study. Through many steps of cleaning process, I would say that it is safe and hygienic material. However, what we have not done yet is to make this material certified. Cow dung based product is still a new thing in the design field, and we still have to study and collect much information to go to that step. Yeah, to be honest, we don't have yet get any certification to make this product more reliable for the wider market. After all, apart from offering a positive impact to the environment, this cow dung project also will contribute positively toward a local social and economic growth. Community empowerment activities can provide new jobs opportunity in the village, thus reducing the wave of urbanization, which is another complex problem. So at the end, I would like to say that our project to deal with cow dung, it's not only about how to create new materials, but we have also two different aspects that we deal with. First, we develop community development in the village, and we also have created some kind of creative industry by providing job and economical value possibility to the villager. So as a summary, first, sustainable strategy that mostly tend to centric approach without clearly embracing the socio-cultural aspect of community and individual. This is what we face, that I think not only Indonesia, but mostly in the other developing country. And we deal with the animal farming and agricultural product in Lembang, West Java, that produce a lot of waste streams such as cow dung. So the idea of our project is how to create products by utilizing the waste material, the cow dung, while at the same time applying a community-based design approach with a combination of ethnography research and participatory method. So our outcome is new design method that easily applicable and accepted by Lembang local communities, and also marketable craft-based products from cow dung, such as brick, panels, small boxes, even lifestyle products like speakers and table lamp. Okay, with making this or developing this new material, we connect the activity of community development with creative industry, and hopefully, so it also creates some kind of what we call now circular economy, because the cow dung is from the village, and then the one who make it to produce is a local people, and then we distribute the market also the product locally for the use of local people. So thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Adhi, for that fascinating presentation. I know I've got lots of questions for you, and I think they may start coming from our audience very soon too, but we'll come back to you later and ask you some of those questions. Thank you so much for getting us started with inspiring stories. So now I'd like to invite Fabian to come and tell us his story. Some, again, unexpected and really quite tricky materials that you were working with. So can I invite you to tell us your story now?
Okay, hi everyone. Hi Carol, thank you for having me. Thank you, Playo. Let me share screen. Okay. Okay, hi everyone. My name is Fabian. I'm a product designer. I'm also Altermatter alumni, Volume 1 last year. And then I want to introduce what I'm doing in Bandung, in Indonesia. I have a studio design called Contour Concrete Lab, found by me and my partner, Ada Fernando. And now it's become a group of researchers, mostly is product designer and interior designer, work to develop design and also materials through concrete materials. And then we make product objects mostly for architecture. And then I will show what we're doing in here. This is a bench made from concrete. And then this is this one also. And last pandemic, and in pandemic, our project is become bigger because mostly commercial area and architect work on outdoor projects. That's why we we get a lot of chance to work with more architect. And then this is one also, we work to make a bench. This one we do explore many type of stools and then outdoor bench. This one also. And then this is also make a wash basin for residential. We do custom made for the shape and the details. And this one also. And this is a small product that we made for retail. It's a ashtray. And this one also we collab with Sans brand called Oaken. We do the design. So the concern of Oaken want to reuse the bottle, glass bottle inside, and then we make the cover after the first buying to the Oaken, and then we put the cover, this one, and then so the customer can only buy the refill scents. This one also our retail products. And then since 2018, we try to concentrate to make a waste material product development. And then this one, we try to collab with Parampong. The first material that we research is a cigarette butt, because mostly our project is commercial area, hotel, cafe, and then some of the owners is asked to me, Fab, can you make something from this cigarette butt, because too much in their cafe. And then I think we try to make the filter and make something with we treat as a fiber in our concrete material, and then we curious that how we can get hygiene of this material, because it's so dangerous for the process. And then we met Parampong. Parampong is a waste management company that have a machine called hydrothermal. Hydrothermal is I don't know how to presto. What in English? High pressure press. It's like high press cooker. It's 200 Celsius degree, and then yeah, it's the fact is the cigarette butt is sterilized using this hydrothermal machine. And then this is the process. We get to cook the materials, and then we dry using direct sun. And then the result is to the pulp and liquid. The liquid is can use for compost. And then the pulp is we use for our fiber in concrete. This one. Before we found the cigarette butt, we use fiber. We import to buy to use to make a strength of our concrete, and then replace and get the same result. This is the raw texture that we can make from cigarette butt waste, and then we develop to another texture we call lunar. Also, lunar is another texture of cigarette butt material, and then this is many products that we made, pot and then tiles, and also the outdoor furniture and stool that made from cigarette butt. And this one also Kamenski is a pop culture brand. We make like a bootleg Supreme, like we want to communicate to more big market, to Kamenski audience. And then this is our latest design furniture for outdoor. It's made from 3,500 cigarette butt waste. And then this is our latest project, but not only made from cigarette butt. This is in Sunset Park, Desa Pototohet, Bali. We just did it last week, finished last week. And then this is a 31 meter bench made with 600 kilo of multi-layer plastic snack packaging waste, like in the chiki packaging. And then this is made from concrete, and then we mix it with multi-layer plastic. And now we are doing research many types of residue waste, cigarette butt waste, disposable mask waste, multi-layer plastic, baby diaper waste, and C-cell waste. And then I want to share about the dimple tiles project with Ali Steyr-Bjars. In this project, I do as a material designer, and then Ali Steyr-Bjars is work as a product designer. Basically, we have the same background. We work at the architectural client, mostly in interior design company. This is Ali Steyr-Bjars projects and design, and this is what I'm doing in Contour in Indonesia. And then we think that because we have doing research on cigarette butt, and then I think Ali have a nice character of design, his design, and then we think that we separate our work. Ali doing get inspired from the design that he doing called the dimple, and then the dimple is inspired from, I don't know what is the mountain kawah. What is kawah? I forget for the English of kawah. And then yeah. And then this one the color direction that Ali gave to me. He want to Fab, can you develop with this earth color, because mostly what I'm doing in Indonesia is we use gray or terracotta color or black, and then Ali give me direction that we want to give color palette, and then this is the shape exploration what we're doing. Ali give me direction that how if we only use simple shape, it's a square tile format, and then we give a small details, the dimple tiles, and then we only do simple thing because he saw that the cigarette butt texture result is already beautiful, and then this is what we organize the tiles, and this is the color testing of our process to develop. This is also to check the color, and this is the development result, the tone, and this is also how we make the tiles. This is the final results that we choose, and then after finish we have a chance to exhibit our products to ICAT. It's a good impression. We talk many designer there and also architect as to how we do the process, how we do the design, and how the program of Altermatter is very exciting. This also we show the material that we use, and this is also our chance. My studio have a branch company in Tokyo right now in Asagaya, and then in January we do exhibition to introduce in for architect in Tokyo. This is also showing dimple tiles here, and then showing what we do in waste material. Okay, now we work to prepare for mass production. Our last discussion with Ali is we both can make this product. Ali can make with the design, can use the design. Me also can use the design, and also now not only using cigarette butt. So the design is represent the idea, and then the waste can replace not only cigarette butt but also disposable mask or C-cell waste or many things, or multi-layer plastic. Yeah, thank you.
Fantastic. Thank you so much, Vibren. You've been very busy, haven't you, developing so many new ideas. And again, I've got loads of questions I'd love to ask you, but I'm going to have to make sure the audience get the chance to ask those as well. I think what you and Adhi have shown us is you can make incredibly beautiful objects from really not nice sources of material, and you can do some really impressive work. So thank you very much for that. I'm going to move over now to Steph, who's going to talk a bit about her practice here in Scotland and give us maybe a little bit of a summary of the sorts of work that's going on in this part of the world. So I'm going to hand over to you, Steph.
Great, thanks, Carol. It's so nice to be here. I helped facilitate Altermatter 1, so it's great to be back and see lots of familiar faces. And thanks for the invitation to talk. It's been great hearing about how the cow dung has been transformed into these beautiful products. And I loved the idea of how you pivoted, I guess, the sort of designed to help sort of keep it financially sustainable as well, and also the input of working with the community too. So I think all round a really great project to hear about, and nice to revisit Fabian's the concrete dimple tiles with the cigarette butts, and it's nice to see how you've kind of progressed since then. So yeah, amazing. So I'm just going to share a screen just now. As I said, and as Carol's mentioned, I'm going to cover a little bit about my own work, which is quite relevant to the project because I've always been interested in alternative materials, and it's been a priority in my practice in terms of how I design. So let me just get some slides up. And then after I cover a little bit about myself, I'll talk about a few projects that I think are, again, really interesting for the audience in terms of the materials used and the kind of processes and ways they've developed materials. So yeah, as I said, I'm an artist jeweler. I trained at Glasgow School of Art, and I've been practicing for about 10 years now. So yeah, I explore geology and rock formations as a way to inform my work, and I aim to bring a sort of contemporary aesthetic, not much dissimilar to how you kind of present your work from the other speakers, by using traditional lapidary processes, which means stone cutting. So I cut a lot of found and discarded rock to create jewellery and objects. These are paired with either recycled or fair trade metals. And I've been making my own rocks recently from different waste streams, such as e-waste, plastic, glass, and ceramics. So I'll show some of those. But just to give you a little bit of a taste of my work, here are some model shots of some of the designs that I make. These are the original rings I created back in 2018 as part of the first Scottish rock collection. And they're inspired by the geometry of mineral structures. And these are marbles from the Isle of Skye and a feldspar from Loch Long. And so from those rings, as they were the first thing I designed, the interchangeable ring was designed as a playful way to reuse the middle parts of those other rings. So exploring a zero waste concept to make the most of the resources that we have available. And so this image here sort of illustrates how I design and use every part of the material. So the concept can be used for all the materials that I kind of design and make. This is a solid rock, but I also use the rocks that I make and can process them this way. And so I sort of just wanted to include that as a way of how I design. So I guess it's thinking about the material before the actual physical outcome. So it's kind of turning the way we design on its head, so or the way we traditionally design. So you would usually maybe design an item, whether it be jewelry or a product, and then you would source the material that you wanted to use. But for me, I do it the opposite way around. And I think as material designers, that's kind of the way we're having to sort of kind of rethink the way that we work within our industries. So just a sort of brief overview of my studio and process. So I find my rocks on beaches and walks. I divert waste rock from landfill by collecting materials from construction sites and industrial and other industries that produce rock that would usually just skip it. So I kind of swoop in and take it away. My studio is in Glasgow. I have some machines that I kind of cut and shape all the rock in-house, and the metal that I work with as well for melting and reshaping, because metal you can reuse over and over again. The tools I have are sourced kind of historically from the 70s, when stone cutting was like a really popular hobby, but there's not that many people in the UK, I'm not sure about Indonesia actually, maybe someone could tell me, that stone cut. So actually all my skills are self-taught. But those skills can then be I guess used in other ways. So I've just put in a few kind of samples of the work since 2020 that I've been using. This was a collaborative project where I worked with Poon, who's a tie maker. It was another British Council project where we collaborated together on a residency, an intensive 10-day residency. And we were looking at problems of e-waste. So e-waste was from the UK getting transported to other places such as Thailand. And so we wanted to sort of look at the materials, break them down and see what kind of things we could make. So we created our own sort of rocks from different composites. So kind of looking at really sort of simple ways of breaking down an old phone, smashing up the plastics and sort of remelting them into these other types of rocks that I then kind of cut in the same way that I could use as an alternative to sort of stone. So that kind of led on to other projects, and I'm part of a group called Closing the Loop, which Carol and Claire are also part of, and we kind of share our resources and our research together to try and sort of push each other and educate each other on how we can help sort of close the loop really with the materials that we choose to use. So in the picture on the right, there is some ceramic waste that came from Carol. There's some of my rock waste, and then there's some glass waste from another artist called Inga Paneer. And what I've done there is I've sort of used really sort of simple methods or lo-fi methods of ways of trying to experiment to transform these materials into, again for me, into rocks. So on the right of the screen, you can see that there's a small mini kiln. That's actually a microwave kiln. And you can do that in your house actually to melt glass and the other materials to grinding down to create pigments. So in a sort of really sort of small scale way, you can experiment. And I think that's quite useful to think about in terms of this project, because there's quite a small time frame to develop materials. And so these were just ways of me transforming them. So using a grinder, pestle and mortar, binding them with natural binders. This is an image of it being melted in the kiln to make these rock blobs. And then these are some of the outcomes. So this is where I've cut them to kind of make into the jewellery as well, and creating my own glass slash sort of ceramic composites. And I just kind of threw this one in as well, because this is reusing rock on a larger scale. So this is taking a piece of rock that is been salvaged from an old church on an island in Scotland, and then we've reused it. I worked with an architect to help me kind of upscale the way I practice, and then we inlaid a piece of Smile plastic, which is 100% post-consumer plastic that's been put together. So we wanted to sort of create a piece that would talk about, I guess, a protest towards sort of the materials we use, and how we think about, as designers, we can kind of raise the subject of climate emergency. So the larger piece of rock is 400 million years old, from the Devonian period, and then the top layer is plastic that comes from just now. And then I just threw this one in as the last slide of my work, which I created during my degree show. And this is it's not actually real rocks, it's scrap copper pipes from sort of the gas industry. So this uses a process called electroforming. And it's quite lo-fi, but it's using copper sulfite as the sort of solution that's blue there that you can see, and it's using a positive current and a negative current to build up a layer of copper. So these are hollow copper shapes that you've seen in the last slide, and it creates that on top of a piece of wax. The wax can get melted away, and then you're left with these items. So it's a way of transforming old metal into something completely new. So I thought it could be quite relevant to anyone that was interested. So for me, I guess you can see that my practice uses materials and processes to transform them as the starting point, and then that informs the design outcome. So moving on though, I wanted to show some examples of what others are doing in Scotland, from designer makers to scientists to material developers that work with a range of materials. So this is a duo called Chalk Plaster. Their names are Fayan and Stephen Bletch, and they use a process called scagliola. I cannot pronounce it right. It's an Italian process that uses plaster to imitate marble or stone, and it's made up of kind of ground plaster and pigments. And basically, in the slide, you can see that they use their pigment from rocks that are foraged from the beach, and they're also using a lot of their lime. So their plaster comes from oyster shells. It's quite a light picture, but you can see down here, this is an oyster shell. So they've ground that down into sort of a powder, mixed it with pigment, and created these really beautiful high-end vessels too. So I think they're also researching into reusing plasterboard. So in the UK, a lot of the kind of way we line our walls is with something called plasterboard, and when buildings are torn down, it usually just gets sent to landfill, but they're trying to take it and reprocess it so they can then turn it and make it into these objects as well. Another example of creating a different composite is Draft. So they're he is based in Dundee. It's Amaric Renaud, and he uses spent grain from distilling gin and whiskey. So he collects these and he collaborates with loads local sort of brewers. And in the material here, you can see that there's juniper berries, citrus leaves, cardamom, and lemongrass. And so he uses different sort of processes, probably similar to the cow dung, actually, just when you were talking about your processes. He dries them, mashes them, adds a natural binder, and then molds them and uses heat pressure to dry them out, and then it turns into this solid material. And I'm sure it also smells really nice. I don't know how long the smell would last for. So this solid material is then cut and used as a sort of surface decoration for these beautiful pieces of furniture that you can see to the right. Another project that I really, really love, for the main reason that it sort of is trying to, I guess, approach design from a problem-solving perspective, is a collaboration between Still Life Studio and Dress for the Weather. So Still Life Studio is a product design studio, but they're also material developers. And Still Life, Dress for the Weather is an architect firm based in Glasgow, and they also are really interested in material development too. So this is a collaboration where they have reused and transformed the plastic waste from NHS. So for this, in this illustration, it's the aprons that a lot of the nurses use that usually just get put straight into the bin and would end up in landfill. And so each of these stool tops comes to 2.2 kilograms of waste plastic. So it stops that from going to landfill, and they've made these chairs. But what's really great, come from this project, the architecture firm Dress for the Weather have been working with NHS Lothians to see if they can design a system in-house at the hospital where they can recycle completely in-house. So they would take these, I guess, aprons. He's trying to look at the equipment they would then need to use to kind of melt it down and then remake kind of the plastic materials that they need within the hospital industry. So maybe remaking some of these aprons as well out of it. So it'll be interesting to see how that evolves. But on that note of closing the loop, is another, I guess it's another duo, and they're called Keynote, and they are Dr. Sam Chapman and Professor Gabriela Madero, and they are based in Lothians, and they take construction waste from, I guess, like, the building industry and transform them into bricks. So the world's first sustainable brick. They come in 13 colours, so they're actually really beautiful as objects as well. And these reduce carbon emissions, and it stops the construction waste going to landfill. And so what's really exciting is they've managed to kind of upscale, and they have a factory now where they produce these bricks. So, you know, they can be ordered now for actually building, you know, a large size building. Because I think with a lot of these projects where we're looking at alternative materials, once upscaling, it becomes really expensive to do that. And I think it's really nice to see something that's kind of followed through and has had funding to help then continue that. So yeah, it's always worth thinking about how would your material become upscaled. And again, this project focuses on the circular economy, so it puts it in place, and then when that's been finished with, it can be reused into more bricks too. So that's that. And I want to end on a high. So I have a project that's close to Carol's heart. And yeah, so Carol, who's the moderator, that's here with us today, and I just wanted to cover her project because I think as a project, it's been really sort of pivotal in a lot of things in Scotland. So Think Plastic was the exhibition that came from the Smart Plastic Group. But I think it was also the starting point for the Closing the Loop group. And it originated as a continuation of the Smart Plastic Group. And it's grown from, I think, 4 makers to 20, as it is at the moment, that are working with all these alternative materials. So the original Smart Plastic Group was Carol Sinclair, Carla Edwards, Lorna Fraser, and Fiona Hutchison. You can correct me if I'm wrong, Carol, at any point as I discuss this, and Dr. Peter Wilkie. So basically, the group of makers got some funding to work with some scientists, and the scientists happened to be Dr. Peter Wilkie, who worked at the Edinburgh Botanical Gardens, and he was a specialist in different plants. And so they used a material called gutta-percha, which is a bioplastic that comes from a tree. Is that right? Yeah, I think. And so they had these materials at their disposal to experiment with and see if they could then transform them and bring them into the way they made their own practice. But they did also look at recycling plastics and making their own plastic composites from PLA, which is a sort of biodegradable plastic, but I think using some of ceramic waste dust from Carol's practice as well. And so I think this is just, I'm not going to go into too much detail about the processes they used, but all the information, if you Google Think Plastic, you can find more details on that through the Applied Arts website. But I think it was just a great example of how science meets art, and that how working in collaboration really works to kind of push boundaries. Yeah, so that's my final slide. And there are so many more examples of what people are doing, but I only had like a small amount of time. So I think just to sort of summarize, using alternative materials, you can sort of, you have the opportunity to kind of problem solve, and it gives, you know, a great narrative or story to sort of tell your clients or customers, but you can also really educate on serious issues as well, such as using the cow dung and the cigarette butts, like we've heard of already. So yeah, thanks for listening. That'll be me for just now.
Thank you so much, Steph. That was an amazing tour of all sorts of projects, and thank you so much for mentioning ours. I think, you know, what you've demonstrated is this very thing about the layers of content in these sorts of projects. It is about material development, but it's also about community development, and it's about storytelling, isn't it, to raise the awareness. So I think we've got a fantastic question from Stefanie in the chat that I'm going to come to in a second. But I think I wanted to maybe kick us off, Steph, with coming back to you, just to ask you a little bit about the benefits of collaboration. Because everything I think that you've illustrated was a sort of group project. I think most people are in some sort of collaboration to extend their knowledge. And that's absolutely what the Altermatter project is setting out to facilitate. So can you say a little bit about how you think a collaborative approach really benefits you creatively?
Well, yeah, from first-hand experience, but also just looking at all the projects that I sort of showcased there, I guess you're sort of limited with your skill set. And sometimes it's really great to work with other people that have similar interests, but also have the knowledge that you might not have. And so it's a quicker way of being able to resolve something that you're interested in, but don't have the knowledge of. But two, it's also a way of really pushing yourself, working with another individual, you really question each other. And so you kind of discover things that you probably wouldn't have if you were working on your own, and even learning a specific technique or process, but you don't have that other person's kind of, I guess it's a fresh set of eyes and insight into what your interests are. And I think just having those conversations are really valuable in terms of sort of how you can work together and push each other as well. And also what's so great about this project is it comes from different cultural perspectives as well. So, there's so much more to learn, I think, within this one.
Absolutely. And I think just to mention again, going back to the other project, the British Council project in Thailand, one of the things I seem to remember that came up was just how interconnected our countries are in terms of the way that we handle waste. And therefore it's a problem we need to tackle together, isn't it?
Yeah, so I guess that project was born from Poon and I's interest in sustainability, and we came across this kind of shared issue of e-waste, but us being the kind of the people that would send our e-waste onto Thailand that was causing pollution in their country. So of course we should definitely be looking at ways where we can work together to resolve these issues. So yeah, sorry. To answer that question.
Thank you, Steph. Thank you. I am going to come to Stefanie's question in a moment, but I'm just going to continue this collaboration thread. And I want to come to you, Fabienne, just to talk a little bit more about your collaboration through Altermatter 1, and just to get your take on how collaboration pushed your thinking for that project. Can you tell us?
Okay, thank you, Carol, for the question. I think the interesting part is to share about how Ali think about the design process, and also what I'm doing here is different style. I see that Ali bring simplicity and on his design, and then when I'm proposing some idea like how if this one, many options, and they bring his own style about fab. Maybe we only do some little bit tweak on simple things like square. I think it's the interesting part is make a stop and go and for about the discussion about design and process research. I think that's the interesting part of the collaboration with Altermatter project.
Yeah, fantastic. And with there being quite a short time to make progress, do you think that it's useful to have someone else to sort of drive you forward and be answerable to?
I think the the hard moment is when we need to get the best result of the research, because we only have a short time. That's why when we know that we separate into two tasks, me as a material designer and Ali work as a designer, and then it's easy to get the design expectation, but the result I think we need more times, because maybe for me it's enough. Maybe for Ali's Fab, can you change a little bit darker the color? It's a we need more time to explore the final result. So like I'm explaining, we only got to color that we approve, both of us, because in our first plans we have 4 colors, and then we only get 2 colors, because we need more time to get more exact colors that we want.
So can I ask, you mentioned that you've been speaking to your collaborator again. Are you still collaborating? Are you still working together?
Last year we talked about what we can do with the dimples, but he have many projects, so he cannot through to the collaboration again. I think maybe this year we'll talk again what we can do again for another projects.
Yeah, it sounds like this is a great way to make a long-term relationship. It may not be that you work together all the time, but you can always come back together again and discuss things. I
think I'm also curious if we can bring the dimple tiles to get more exhibition in Ali's side, maybe in Scotland, if he had more chance to get exhibition there, and then maybe I can send more samples and many things to exhibit there. I think we hope can do exhibit more event. Yeah, of course, that's another benefit of this project, is the opportunity to reach new audiences and new markets. So yes, thank you for highlighting that. Yeah, fantastic. So I'm now going to come to the first part of Stefanie's question, and I'm going to come back to you, Adhi, and I'm going to ask you Stefanie's questions in 3 parts, but the last part is, how did you know or believe that there was potential in using cow dung? Because it might not have seemed obvious to everybody. So tell us about that bit first.
Okay, thank you. This is very interesting. Well, before we communicate with the villagers, with the community in the village, we first make a research experiments that, in fact, the material can be washed and we can clean it, and there is no more smell from that. So after clean, it's maybe I would say that only 5% that we can smell, but it's not really strong. It's very mild. And then now we know how to make it really zero smell of the cow dung. After we know that, we get that, and then we produce it, and then we show to the people, to the community in the villages that, hey, now we have this kind of object that is made of your cow dung production. So, and of course they're really enthusiastic to see it. And then before we really come to the make a collaboration with the villager, we did some kind of ethnographical research. We make like ethnography mapping in the village, and then we make a lot of data. What is the main work, and then how many people doesn't have job, and then this is mostly women, they don't have a job, or young people, and then how they expect from us if we make something. So, and then we invite them almost 3 times. We make a meeting, we make gathering, we eat together, and then we make food together. And then from that, we start to show our research. And then they really see, and then they really smell that, wow, this is our cow dung, but it's not smell anymore. And then it's so clean. And then with that step, so they're really enthusiastic to involve in this project. And I think the most important thing is they understand that if they involve and they can get extra income for the family economy. So I think this is how we get in touch, and then we try to collaborate and then to convince that this project is worth it for us and then for them, and then we can collaborate and continue to work together. So I think this is the most interesting part of our project, that our ideas was accepted by the community, and then community were very glad to involve in this project.
Fantastic, very clever way to take what was the problem of the smell and turn it into an advantage by giving jobs and work to the community. That's a very important set of steps, isn't it?
Yeah, I think so. From the beginning, so our team have discussed this research is not useful, it's only for us. So, well, I work in ITB. My position is as a head of research center for cultural and environmental products. And our aims also to build some kind of community development together with increasing the creative economy in any areas in Indonesia. So our aims was, when we deal with this project, so it is very clear that if this result could be easily applied to the local people in the area where the project is. So that was really our aim, that this project should be useful or has a benefit for many people who live in this area. Yeah.
Fantastic. So a really big set of collaborations to make impact. That's a great story. Thank you. Thank you so much.
Yeah,
I'm hoping that, because I think you've answered all the layers of Stefanie's question, because she was keen to know how you worked with the community and how you got past this idea of the dirt, but you've explained all of that beautifully. So
yeah.
Stefanie, if you have any other questions, sub-questions from that, please pop them in the chat and we can ask. But I think I want to go back to Fabian and ask you really the same sort of question in terms of using cigarette butts, because again, that's not an obvious material choice. I know that, you talk about it being a really enormous problem of waste. I think we've all seen streets, with lots of cigarette butts causing all sorts of problems, but also the toxins that, it's really not a very nice material to work with. So how did you know what prompted that exploration?
Yeah, we try to work with Parompong. Parompong is a waste company that we work with Contour, because in my studio, we do only research hygiene material after Parompong processing using hydrothermal machine. All the waste material, cigarette butt waste, disposable mask waste, multi-layer plastic, all the waste material already processed from hydrothermal machine, and then come already clean to our studio, and then we do research and found which mix formula to match with the result, the texture, the quality. We check the strengthness of the concrete, how it will be dry and ready to open. Yeah, we always work with Parongpong to help us to get the hygiene waste material. So in my studio, we only do research after the material already clean.
Okay. Again, so again, collaboration and about working in partnership to be able to tackle the problem. So had they identified the problem ahead of them bringing the material to you? I'm just wondering, you know, again, what's the starting point in coming to this kind of project?
I think the hard things is if only we do research, only 1 or 2 products for research, it's easy for us. But the things is if we make some design and then we found a customer that want to buy many stuff of our projects, and then yeah, I think the if we think that waste is we have many ways, but Parongpong also need partner to help to collect the waste, because we already got some situation that in Contour we already use 3 tons of cigarette butt waste into 100 projects in 3 years. And then we only have, I think it's only 200 kilo of cigarette butt. The point is, we think that we don't do the task as a designer. We do finish the research, and then if we think about the problem of cigarette butt waste, I think yeah, we need another partner to help the waste material. That's why we also doing many materials that we know right now. Disposable mass waste, it can be replaced 100% of sand using in concrete materials. And the interesting part is the waste, disposable waste, it's cut 50% of weight of concrete, normal concrete. I think it's like every waste material can come up with the different texture, different character, different weight. Yeah, I think it's the interesting part of what we're doing on architecture project, because they do always mass production, and also we think the cycling of the waste material, and then we done the research, and then we got the cycling of project waste material, and then we do the research and design. Yeah.
Okay.
I think,
okay. Yeah, so many layers and stages to getting to a final product. And as you say, even then, prototypes are just the beginning of new discovery.
We need three years for finish the research of cigarette butt waste.
Okay, great. Good to know it's that sort of commitment to getting something to a final stage. I think that probably also leads us really nicely into the question that Lavina has asked, which is, you know, she's acknowledging it's just amazing to see so many of these projects and initiatives, you know, reframing the way we think about waste. And I think she's really keen to know all of your thoughts on whether these projects are going to have an impact in changing people's behaviors, so that they start to look at the way that they create waste in a different way. And I'm going to come back to you, Steph, because I think the kind of awareness raising of this type of work is a really important part of its benefit, isn't it?
Yeah, definitely. And I think, again, it all comes down to the narrative of it and the storytelling aspects of all the projects that we've seen today, and also from the original Altermatter project. And I think it's about how we sort of try to normalize using waste, or maybe even changing the narrative of that no material is actually waste, and that it's more of a potential. So so yeah, it's maybe just sort of eliminating the idea of waste as a thing, or referencing it as waste. It's just like, this is, you know, we can try and see the potential in everything. And I think especially with the cigarette butts and the cow dung, you know, there's I wouldn't have thought about potential in that, but we've been proved today that there definitely is. And yeah, I think it is just sort of through education and conversations and continuing to sort of showcase these things that we normalize that. And I think for me, the way I make in a way where, I make everyday products, but I also try and challenge myself to make things that are more about like having that conversation. For example, the bench, that's quite a large item, and when you sit on it, hopefully people try and kind of reflect on those ideas as well. So it is kind of putting these, not examples, but these products in kind of within the public and just asking them to sort of respond to it. Yeah, sorry, that's my answer.
No, it's great. It's true. It's so important to have these layers in the project. Because I suppose coming back to you, Adhi, there must be enormous potential to catch people's attention when you tell them that you use cow dung. There must be great interest in what you're doing beyond just the community that you're working with. I can imagine your story is something people are really interested in.
Yeah, sure. Every time we have a exhibition, for example, our first exhibition in Singapore, there are so many media will write our story, including CNN, so forth. So, and then what's interesting is also there are some like design galleries in Australia, in India, because I know that India has also a problem with cow dung. Yeah, even worse. I mean, even bigger. So they come to me and then ask for the collaboration. Like in Australia, they want to sell our product or to promote our product in Australia. And India, they want to make a collaboration to develop other product that is fit within the Indian culture and Indian market. So I think because this is new and it is, I mean, it's so sexy that we can make something from cow dung, and then it's really, I mean, with the potentiality of good design and then a sexy design, so it can go to the good market. I believe, yeah, and I think it's also interesting that to see how people respond, that how it's possible that everybody who see the exhibition, they always smell the product, and then they really, I mean, they really eager that this is just like plastic. You can almost make everything from cow dung also. Yeah. And I said, yeah, why not? Yeah. And as long as people have a cow, I mean, as long as there is a farm for cow, and then we always have the material for that. Yeah. I think that is the positive thing of this material.
Yeah. These are phrases I'd never thought I'd hear. The sexy products made from cow dung is a great phrase. We'll have to use it a lot. Fantastic. And I hope that answers your question, Lavina. If there's anything else you want to ask, please pop that in the chat. But I thought maybe we could move on a little bit to more of the practicalities of people getting involved in Altermatter too. You know, I definitely invite anyone in the audience, if you've got a practical question, please pop that in the chat now. But I wanted to maybe kick that off by asking each of our speakers in turn, what sort of advice you would give to someone who is maybe at an earlier stage of new material development. What sorts of things should they be thinking about? What are the practicalities? I think some of the things Steph mentioned in terms of using, you know, your kitchen equipment or using something that comes easily to hand and isn't an enormous investment. And possibly also to reassure potential applicants to Altermatter that you don't have to work with, you know, cow dung or cigarette butts or dangerous materials. It's not, you don't have to do that. You can choose something else that's perhaps quite plentiful around you. But yeah, can I come to you, Steph? What's your thoughts on how do you get this kind of project kicked off? What do you need to think about?
For me, I like thinking about what problems could be solved in terms of, I guess, for me locally. So, for example, like finding kind of the kind of disused rock that would end up in landfill, I can kind of collect that and use that. But yeah, so thinking about what you could maybe do problem solving within your kind of local space, but also having an element of like play. I think you really just have to kind of relax into it and really kind of use the material and just play with it for a while, because it takes a little while to sort of see what its potentials can be. So think about maybe testing it out in maybe as many ways you can, say like 10 ways, and do it fast. Try not to think too much about it and just sort of enjoy the process of seeing what it can do. And, you know, for me, I like to sort of grind it down or try and burn it, or, you know, like obviously within sort of health and safety, you know, spaces. But yeah, so just sort of, yeah, be playful with it and enjoy the process, and yeah, see what kind of issues you could solve locally. But yeah, for me, like chapping on doors at local kind of businesses to see what their waste streams are could be a good starting point to see what's around you. Or if there's a material you already have and want to use, maybe get in touch with other people that have kind of either used it in the past to sort of see how their process have developed. I think within this sort of community of people that are working towards sort of more sort of sustainable ways, people are generous with their kind of knowledge and information, because you're all working towards something that's for the greater good rather than yeah, keeping it to themselves. So yeah.
Great, thank you. And I love that idea of play, because really play is what we're all good at as creative thinkers, whatever angle you come from. And play is where unexpected things happen that can be really helpful. So thank you for that. And also enjoyable. I mean, that's also part of this, is to go on a really interesting creative journey. So coming to you then, Fabienne, what would be your tips on somebody coming to material development at a fairly early stage? What should they be thinking about?
I think learn from many researchers on materials, and then also try to explore about the technicality of exploration. I mean, maybe Pak Adhi doing from that material many process can become many results. Me also in concert, we need three years to get the best result of cigarette butt waste, because we mix with the first process. We put 50% of cigarette butt, and then we use 30%, and then the final is only 10%. It looks small for percentage, but in 10% of 1 kilo is we need 50 cigarette butt. So I think yeah, we need more time, of course, to get the best result, and no need to hurry about the research process. I think that's from me.
Yeah, no, that's really, it also reminds me, I know in my own experimentations, I have to remind myself to keep really good notes so that I remember if it's 30% or 20% or, you know, half an hour or 5 minutes. I know that, you know, some of the mixtures that Steph and I worked on melted onto my kiln shelf, which was not ideal. So I had to remember not to do that again. So yes, keeping good notes, being playful, but also I think that silly things in a way, but looking after your health, wearing gloves, wearing a mask. These are really important things, aren't they? To make sure you survived your experiments. But we want you to come and tell us how it went. So we need you to be healthy. What about you, Adhi? What's your thoughts on how to get material experimentation off the ground?
Yeah, for me, first we have to have a good team. Like I said in my presentation, we have a multidisciplinary team, which is not only designer. We have scientists who concentrate in material studies. We have also a technical, mechanical engineer who can produce the tools to help the experiment. So I think this is very important to have a team from multidisciplinary approach. And then the second is that we have the knowledge. I think that is very important. We have the knowledge how to do that, and then how to experiment. And yeah, after that, then if we are doing experiment, of course, we need small, less or more, some kind of tool to help the experiment. And then the last, of course, funding, grant.
Yes.
Yeah. Because I work in a research center, so we have a yearly grant, so it is safe for us. And then what is good is when the result is become more and more clear, so we can get even more grant from other institute or even from abroad. So I think grant or funding is also a good part of this material research, because without that, it's kind of course we can also make it, but a lot of obstacle and a lot of problem concerning that. We cannot do it in a very ideal way. So last or not least, we have to connect to the people, to the community, and also when the research starts, we already see the possibilities, market possibility, what kind of market that can absorb our innovation or our experiment in material. I think that is also very important. If we are really not clear what kind of market that can absorb our research, so I think for me it's not very interesting. Only just researching something in the name of only research. Absolutely. For the sake of research. Yeah.
Yes, I mean, I think we all love to play just for the fun of it. But as Steph says, it's really useful to have a problem to solve, isn't it? It's really
sure.
important to kind of think, why are we doing this work?
Yes.
I also want to pick up on that thing about funding, and I'm going to come to Kemi just to talk about that in a second. But what I want to also do is pick up Carrie's question, because she's saying that she's not quite sure perhaps how those matches will be made, because the application asks if you're a product designer or a material developer. So I thought perhaps actually, Kemi, you could answer that one too, is how the matches had been made in the past round, and why we're looking for people with different disciplines.
Thanks, Carol. That's a really good question, Carrie. And I think what we have tried to do in the past is, because last year was a bit of a pilot for us, and we were also trying to experiment how we would be able to pair different designers and makers in a collaboration team. We wanted to make sure that we have one person who represents the Indonesian design sector and one person who represents the UK design sector. And in that particular team, one person would be maybe having more experience in the development of materials, while the other would maybe have more experience in development of products. So that is how we try to match people based on their applications. And we also try to look through their portfolio, their CVs and resumes, their application forms, and their statement letters to see whether or not these people would make a great pair. And I think luckily we had some really good collaborations that came out of it. As an example, Fabrian and Alistair, they seem to be working very well together. And I think this is an example of how we try to identify, the strengths of each of the applications, and then try to make sure that everybody, the other complements them, basically. So that's the that's the process that we've tried to approach in the past. But we're also, of course, looking forward to seeing what kind of applications come through this round. So we will probably have maybe a similar approach, but also, it will also depend on what kind of applications come through.
Yeah, I think Carrie's just asking for a bit of further clarification. Really that sort of sense of, do product designers have any hand in the development of materials, and do material developers do any designing? And I think maybe from what happened before, there was an exchange of skills to some degree, and a very communal approach to what comes out of it. Would that be fair?
Yeah, and I think it's in a way, very fluid. I mean, we of course encourage that kind of fluidity of roles across the teams. It will, of course, depend on your own team. So if you have been paired with another designer, it would be good for you to maybe have some kind of discussion or agreement with each other about how you are thinking about approaching the project, and whether or not, for instance, if you come from a material background, but you're interested in having some contribution to the product design aspect, then maybe make that aware in the beginning, so that both of you are coming through with, the same level of expectations around the project and the division of the roles.
Right, thanks, Cami. That's very practical. I'm just going to ask actually the other kind of collaborating partners if they've got any specific advice on how applicants should fill in the application. I mean, are there particular things that would be useful to see in the application? I'm looking at you, Claire, as you're going, oh no, don't ask me this question. But I'm just wondering, I'm just thinking of what is the kind of information that would be really helpful to you as somebody who's going to make those matches. What would you like to see in an application?
I think just sort of amplify your interests, really. If you're a designer working in materials, then, say it. Give us some examples.
Yeah, just be very straightforward about what you're looking for out the project.
Absolutely, yeah.
What about colleagues from Pleo? Adil, do you have a thought on that?
Yeah, I would say that what we try to find is the designers who are working together, not just have a good products or have a good design or the great prototypes of their own projects, but also we try to find how they communicate each other, because we also want to put some cultural understanding through this project. So we don't want just find like the great designers for this project. So I think that also will make a good point how the designers will approach to this project. Yeah.
Great, thanks. Any other thoughts on that, Cami? Yeah,
I think when we're selecting, what's lovely about it is that we have this kind of rich variety of work and what people do. And I think the joy about it is trying to kind of match these makers and designers and material developers to try and complement each other. So we're kind of in the background kind of going, okay, what we're seeing is this application form. So just show us everything you're interested in and why you really want to embrace this collaboration, and we'll hopefully pick up on that and then kind of marry this collaboration and kind of move it forward and push it and kind of pick out what we think, maybe there's this material that could just do wonders in the hands of this sort of product designer, and we try our best to kind of match it, and yeah.
Make some magic happen.
Yeah. That's
Well, it
exciting.
certainly did happen last time round. So you're clearly very good matchmakers, all of you. So that's a good sign. And Steph, I think, has said very practical, you know, provide some lovely visuals. You know, it's so much easier to see what you're doing through some images than perhaps, you know, some lengthy text. I know that we often feel like applications have to be just in the written form, but really this is about visuals as well. So make sure you have a really good portfolio to present so people understand where you're coming from.
And process as well. We love to see process. So kind of don't be afraid of experiments that haven't gone anywhere or that didn't work, because process is as valuable as end product.
Absolutely. Great. Is there anything else, any other thoughts on the application process from any of the partner organizations? Anyone got any tips? I suppose the main one is just please apply. It's such an exciting project. We want to have lots of people applying, and making some exciting new matches. Yeah. So I think we're probably getting to the last few minutes of our session together. Is there anything the speakers would like to just throw into the mix? I think we could probably have conversations about your amazing projects for hours, and really appreciate you sharing what you have. But is there anything else you wanted to throw in? Any other tips for our whole new world of material development? Just do it. Would that be a tip? Yeah. And any other questions from our audience? Anything we've not answered? This is your moment. Speak up or type up. Oh, it's quiet. Well, I think we've maybe said, look, I hope what we've done today is really inspire people to make an application, because I think certainly for me, listening to our speakers, listening to Kami and talk about the partners and why they're behind this project, it's such an exciting and important project. And thank you so much for sharing your stories to inspire us all to get on and do some really good stuff. I think that's probably.
Carol, I will share something. I think if there is a participant will join the Altermatter second volume. I think it's a great experience for me as a product designer and also material designer. And I think for Carrie, don't worry to do the playful progress on the Altermatter program. And then I think the key is the good communication with the partner, maintain the communication, and also always update the progress, and then just say it about the idea. I think it's, the important things for me and Ali, it's we have a good communication, because we always update and comment what we do, process and progress. It's both of us. I think it's Altermatter is a good program for designer and material designer to get new experience for us. Yep. Thank you.
Great. No, that's a really good point. And I think to emphasize that it's about equal partnership, isn't it? Everybody's got to contribute and respond to one another and sort of come to this with a level of commitment to make it work and to make it worthwhile. So great tip there. Thank you. Okay. So yeah, there's obviously, you can get in touch with us after the event to ask more questions. Can I just ask our event coordinators where the people will find the recording of this session? Is that going to be made available on one of the websites? Yeah, so people can look on the links that we've already shared. Perhaps they could these are in the chat now. The link to the brief and to the application, and there'll be more information in there and routes to asking further questions if you need support. So I'm going to wrap things up. I'm going to say a huge thank you to all of our project facilitators, you know, to the partners who are making this amazing project happen. Thank you very much. And thank you to our speakers for just providing such amazing, inspiring stories to get us all excited about material development. And you know, the importance of that in terms of working together and tackling, you know, the climate emergency and the pollution problems that we've really got to face head on, and we can do it together and we can make progress. So onwards and upwards, I'd say. Let's do this thing. Thank you very much, everybody.